Alright, well, it wasn't the prettiest, yet I think we're used to that at this point. But at least the Eagles came away with the win and moved to 11-4 thanks to some stellar play from a couple playmakers. However, why was Nick Sirianni so heated on the sideline? And is he in danger of losing the locker room? Plus, a couple rookie standouts on the defense. And maybe a reason to be optimistic about getting the number 1 seed. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? I hope everyone had a great Christmas, and hopefully you got some awesome presents, even if it wasn't quite like Jalen's gift to the O-line after Fletcher Cox leaked that QB1 gifted the road graders a Rolex watch for Christmas.
It is like this tangible thing that you can point to and say, hey man, I love you. This many dollars worth.
Okay, well, Jalen is one of the highest paid players in the league, so he can definitely afford it. But he did have the favor returned at the link as the stout squad seemed determined to unleash punishment on the G-men all day. I mean, I'd say they certainly proved a point with the offense racking up 465 yards of total offense behind some stellar Jalen magic plays to keep drives alive and come away with points. By the way, for anyone counting, Monday was the first game since October against the Commanders that Hurts has thrown for over 300 yards in a game. And he also ran one in via the brotherly shove to set the NFL record for most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback in a season, which had Jason Kelce all kinds of fired up, with the future Hall of Famer sharing afterward about how impressed he was with Jalen.
Made a lot of things happen, and that's one of the things that makes him a special player. You can't pick everything up, and he was truly remarkable at times in this game.
Okay, I agree. It was definitely one of the better performances from Jalen in the offense. There's no denying that. Plus, the team finally completed a pass from under center after going 15 weeks without one. I know that's crazy saying that out loud. But the Eagles' play calling actually looked better and more dynamic early on, going with a mixture of calls to playmakers and getting DeVonta Smith involved more than we've seen in past games. While the defense was just as dynamic, making me think we might actually play a complete game for once. And shout out to Shaq Leonard for turning back time and making play after play after play in this game, while leading the team with 7 tackles and recording his first sack since 2020. Although it shouldn't really be a huge surprise, since after all, the 28-year-old told Josh Tolentino after the game, "They wrote me off, talked down on my name. I'm here to prove it, prove I can still play, prove I can still make plays." Honestly, I'm just glad we're seeing some kind of an improvement and signs that Leonard is getting more comfortable with the defense, because that comfortability helped force an early 3-and-out, resulting in a quick 7-point lead for the Birds, followed by a bend but don't break defensive approach, and sure, maybe a lucky James Bradberry matchup that just dropped the ball. Either way, that was the only points for New York in the first half, as Brian Johnson's offense led an 18-play, 72-yard drive that took up over 8 minutes of possession, and honestly was the most resembling attack from last year's unit we've seen this season, including some Jalen heroics on 3rd down in the red zone to keep the possession alive, and then DeVonta Smith appeared to do the same 2 plays later where it looked like Agent Zero had scored, but unfortunately, after further review, the replay official ruled his knee was down, eventually leading to a field goal to go up 10-3. Now, thankfully, the defense answered the call on the next possession, and I tweeted about this during the game, but the unit was just playing with a different emotion, physicality, and a little bit of nasty, including my guy Nolan Smith, who laid a hit on Giants receiver Wan'Dale Robinson. And those of you familiar with the channel know I enjoyed seeing my favorite rook on the field. I mean, I already loved the switch to new defensive coordinator in Matt Patricia, but it's just that much better after seeing how Patricia's much more willing to play the young guys and try them out in new positions. Of course, sure, we're dealing with some injuries, so it's understandable that we'd see them play more anyway. Yet seeing Nolan line up as an off-ball linebacker on multiple occasions was definitely encouraging, and okay, probably not something we'll see with any regularity once Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow come back, but the Philly dog made at least a couple encouraging plays from that spot. Curious how you guys felt about the move, and how about some of the other rooks getting more playing time? Like Ben VanSumeren, for example, who made his first NFL start and certainly made a statement with his performance after the rookie UDFA was the 3rd highest graded defensive player for the Birds, while making a couple key stops and playing really well in coverage. And yeah, obviously we got to talk about Kelee Ringo, since the dude's stat line in his first 2 starts is now 7 targets, 4 receptions allowed for only 9 yards, 0 first downs with 1 pass breakup and 1 game-sealing interception. Alright, it's official at this point. I don't care what James Bradberry makes. When Darius Slay comes back, he and Ringo should be the starting corners on the outside, and Bradberry can just come off the bench. Because there's no denying it, JB's just lost a step. Of course, I don't mind if they want to go big dime occasionally with him, but even Sidney Brown, in my opinion, should get a look over JB, because at least Sidney's got the athleticism to make up for some of the mistakes at times. Plus, he was a much surer tackler on Monday than he was versus Seattle. Yet regardless of all that, this team's only going to go as far as the offense takes it, which is still a little concerning. I mean, I want to be positive, and it was encouraging to see the Birds connect on some bigger plays, but honestly, it just feels like once BJ runs out of his scripted plays, he's a little lost on what to dial up.
What do you mean you don't know?
Alright, to be fair, despite Brian Johnson needing 60,000 plus Eagles fans to chant run the ball during the game, which actually happened by the way, before he listened and got back on the ground game, it wasn't totally all on him. Heck, Jalen Hurts even had an airhead moment by not going out of bounds before the end of the half without any timeouts. Yet fortunately, the officials called a delay of game on New York, allowing Jake Elliott to get 3 to take a 20-3 lead into the intermission. However, as we all know, the difference with this team is they just can't put teams away. Or who knows, maybe it's Nick Sirianni's rhetoric that's causing this group to struggle buying in. But whatever it was, it definitely didn't work to get things cleaned up in the second half. As before I could make it back to my seat with Christmas dinner, I was watching a replay of Olamide Zaccheaus hit-sticking Boston Scott, resulting in a fumble, which was recovered by the Giants and eventually parlayed into 6 behind a Saquon Barkley touchdown. And you know, it immediately made me think back to Week 9 versus Dallas when DeAndre Swift ran into A.J. Brown causing a fumble. I don't know why we have such a problem with our receivers tackling our running backs, but it's something Sirianni said after that the team will get cleaned up, so hopefully we don't see it again. However, what I really don't want to see again is Philly faced with a 3rd and 1 like they were in the third quarter and not choosing to run the automatic first down getter in the brotherly shove. I mean, seriously, can someone please explain to me what Sirianni or BJ are thinking to avoid getting the first? And sure, going back to this play, I saw some comments saying Jalen had AJ wide open for a wide receiver screen, and maybe he did if he had recognized the defensive play beforehand, but like I talked about on my video last week, the Birds just make things way too difficult at times when they don't need to be. Look, I know I'm probably coming across as a little too negative, especially considering that we won, but am I alone in thinking that it didn't exactly feel like we did? Because I'm with Brandon Lee Gouton, who said, cautious of being a blame the coach guy, because I think coaches tend to get a disproportionate amount of blame, but the Eagles look like a very poorly coached team right now, and that's bigger than the coordinators. It's on Nick Sirianni, which, yeah, it feels like reached a boiling point with DeVonta Smith after the game.
I'm not satisfied. Yeah, we got 11 wins. I'm not happy. It needs to be better for what I want to do, what everybody else in here wants to do, where we want to be. We're nowhere near that, so no, I'm not happy. I think that's pretty much anybody in here, man. They'll probably tell you the same thing. You know, we know we can be, and we know we're not there yet, and we have a lot to do when you're playing how we're supposed to do. I mean, it's a whole lot that we left out there, a whole lot that I left out there. Season not over. Looking forward to, these next 2 weeks, cleaning everything up. We're not playing good as an offense. There's a lot more that we can do, so honestly, I'm not satisfied with it. I have all the confidence in the world that we can fix it. I'm never going to doubt it that we're not going to be able to fix it. But, run out of time. We got 2 weeks. We got 2 weeks to get it together. Man, we got a lot of penalties. Like I said, a lot of still miscommunications. I don't expect it all to be clean right then. It is better than what it was, but, we're still not playing where we want to be. But, I mean, like I said, we got 2 weeks to correct it. I know these guys going to come in. We're gonna get it fixed. We just got 2 weeks. We got to do it now. Talent can only take you so far, man. It's all about the little details and things like that. We have to be better with the small details, because when the small details are hidden, it's gonna be looking good. It all starts with communication, man. Everybody, we have to communicate. That's what it is.
Yeah, I agree with Smitty. And don't the vibes just feel off for this squad? Especially considering the sideline discussion that was picked up late in the fourth between defensive ends coach Jeremiah Washburn and then Smitty also chiming in before getting an earful from the head coach.
Everybody love everybody!
Okay, I get the tensions were high with the G-men threatening to force overtime, but it's just not a good look. With Sirianni also being seen when Haason Reddick came over to have a chat with Wash, telling Haas to go away and get the back on the field. Now, to his credit, the head coach did admit to some fault afterward.
Joy and determination to get better, you can have both. And I think that definitely starts with me, quite frankly, right? And there was moments in that game yesterday where I felt like I was too tense, and that on the sideline, and I need to be better about that. I have to do a better job, and if I'm going to ask the players to do a better job themselves, then I have to do a better job myself. And I definitely felt that yesterday out of myself. I need to be better in those scenarios. When there's some high pressure areas, they got to see me calm, and not tense there. There's a time and place to be, intense, and there's a time and place not to be. And I know that's something that I always have to work on as a head coach.
All right, while I can appreciate that, and it's worth noting that the reports are that Sirianni and DeVonta shared an embrace in the locker room, Haason Reddick refused to speak with the media, as did A.J. Brown, who got an up-close look at the altercation on the sideline, saying afterward, "I've got nothing nice to say." which really says it all, quite honestly, and sparked the debate that Sirianni may be close to losing the locker room if he hasn't already.
Everybody love everybody. Right there up on the wall. Got that, Monix? Nope.
Okay, sorry, I'm not trying to make a big deal out of this, but I do think that it's at least a minor problem. What say you? I mean, at this point, we've all seen the sloppy play and uncharacteristic mistakes. However, Jalen's remaining confident even with some locker room drama going on.
I think we're hungry. I think we're motivated, eager, kind of the same things I've been saying. In just terms of chasing that standard we have for ourselves and demanding it of ourselves. You know, I don't think win, lose, or draw, there's a circumstance where you compromise the standard of what we want and how we want to be.
I don't know. I want to believe it, and yeah, I guess give him credit for holding on to the victory thanks to some spectacular plays by Jalen, AJ, and Kenny, as well as DeAndre Swift. Like, at least the positive is that we got the running game going, and maybe that's something we'll stick to for once, although I will say I'm concerned by the fact that our pass rush just isn't doing enough. Okay, Haason Reddick was noteworthy, but we're nowhere close to dominant there. Plus, the lack of creating turnovers are a definite issue, since the Eagles are now -6 in turnover differential, as Ruben Frank pointed out that the last team to have 11 wins and that bad of a turnover differential was the 2011 Pittsburgh Steelers, who, in case you don't recall, did make the playoffs but ultimately got bounced thanks to the Tim Tebow heroics in overtime in the wildcard round. Obviously, we're all hoping we have a different fate than the 2011 Steelers, but I think that's going to depend even more on home field advantage. But, you know, at least there's a chance after this weekend, with Dallas losing on a last-second field goal to Miami and San Francisco not quite looking as invincible after all, where they got obliterated by Baltimore and Santa Clara. Meaning the Eagles' path to the #1 seed is still alive, as long as the Birds can win out versus Arizona and at New York, and the Cowboys beat Detroit Saturday, followed by the 49ers losing to either Washington or the LA Rams. I mean, it's not impossible, but curious where you guys are at, so let's hear it. The positives, negatives, and just overall takeaways. Who knows? Maybe winning can end up curing all. Alright, I'm just trying to be optimistic. This has been the Philly Special.